Thank you very much. And yeah, I echo a lot of the sentiment about this being a great crowd, because it really is. I mean, the timing and the location, everything, you guys did a great job getting this all together. So thank you. Thanks for letting me come and say a few words. And so you may or may not know that that I was actually named after the Apostle Paul in the Bible, the guy that wrote like 2/3 of the New Testament. And most of that was like letters to people at different places about what he thought about things. So you could say this speech today that I'm going to give, because I'm not going to talk a lot about my campaign. I am running for Kent City Council. You can find out more about it at Addis for Kent, number 4, Addis4Kent.com if you like. But tonight, I guess you could say that I'm kind of giving my letter to the Libertarians of Washington. So I read an article recently by Jeffrey Tucker. A lot of you know Jeffrey Tucker. He's a great mind in the liberty movement that writes for fee.org, the Foundation for Economic Education. He wrote an article recently that I was reading, and it started off this way, and it made me think. He said, if God is so great, why did he make grapes and wheat instead of wine and bread? He said that a rabbi asked this question at a wedding ceremony that he attended recently. And the answer the rabbi quoted from the Talmud was that because God wants us to learn to cooperate with others in order to live better lives. So that really made a lot of sense to me, and as a person of faith. And I don't want to put, I don't mean to offend anybody, but you may hear a few scriptures in my speech tonight, and that's just because I think what I'm going to say is relevant just because of the principles that are involved. Because, by the way, we are the party of principle, as Aaron mentioned, and so I think there's a principle here that I want to give to you and encourage you to hopefully follow, so we can be a better force for good in the political and cultural landscape around us. When Jesus was nearing the end of his time on earth here, in what some might consider to be the most epic fail in history or the most epic victory in history, depending on how you look at it, he made a request through a prayer that he made to his Heavenly Father. And he asked for one thing in particular, for the people that he was leaving behind to do that work, to engage the culture. And I think we can learn something from that request, and perhaps be encouraged to follow something similar in our efforts. He asked for unity among his followers and the workers in that faith. Here's an excerpt I'm going to read from that prayer that he made. He said, "Now I am departing from the world. They are staying in this world, but I am coming to you. Holy Father, protect them by the power of your name so that they will be united just as we are. I am praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one." So at the dawn of what would be a very massive effort of a group of people to try and make positive change in the hearts and minds of millions, their leader wanted one thing above all and thought it was of prime importance, and that is unity. And I think that's an important thing for us to think about as we, the Libertarian Party of Washington, try and do what we want to do to effect change in our way. As we see in their early efforts, which are recorded throughout the book of Acts in the Bible, that unity proved to be a most powerful force. Many amazing events took place as they went out and spread their message. Many signs and wonders were a hallmark of their work. Their numbers grew rapidly, which is something I think we would all like to see. Any organization looking for that kind of growth that would be proud of their results. And in that book, there was a term of one accord, meaning unity, that's mentioned 11 times, while only once is mentioned in the rest of the whole New Testament. So what is unity? Why is it important? And why is it so effective? So the answers to these questions, I think, can help the Libertarian Party of Washington to continue to grow as an effective force for good in the cultural and political landscape around us. So what is unity? Merriam-Webster helps us out, as they do, with defining terms. Unity is defined in part as a condition of harmony. Of course, that begs the question, then what does harmony mean? And Merriam-Webster hasn't left us alone on that. In the H section, it tells us that harmony is an interweaving of different accounts into a single narrative. And I think that's important, because one point about this type of unity, this type of harmonic unity, is that each part doesn't have to be the same. They're different parts. but it says that interweaving of different accounts into a single narrative. So the different parts work together for a single narrative or a single goal. So, for example, a boxer, uses his eyes or her eyes to not only to look for a chance to attack his opponent or her opponent, but also to watch for things coming their way. They use their hands, their arms, and their fists to be offensive weapons as well as defensive weapons. They use their feet and their legs to get themselves in a better, more advantageous position, or to get away and get into a more safe position. So as you see, all the parts of the body are working. In fact, my namesake, the Apostle Paul, also talked about this very thing in his letter to a group of folks in Corinth, where he wrote, the human body has many parts, but the many parts make up one whole body. Yes, the body has many different parts, not just one part. If the foot says, I'm not a part of the body because I'm not a hand, that does not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear says, I'm not part of the body because I'm not an eye, would that make it any less part of the body? If the whole body were an eye, how would you hear? Or if your whole body were an ear, how would you smell anything? How strange a body would be if it had only one part. The eye could never say to the hand, I don't need you. The head can't say to the feet, I don't need you. This makes for harmony among the members, so that all the members care for each other. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it. If one part is honored, all the parts are glad. Those words still make a lot of sense today. Similarly, each of us who make up the Libertarian Party of Washington are unique and different, and have different, maybe based political philosophies, as Karen mentioned a minute ago. We have different perspectives, and we can be as different from one another as an ear is to an eye. But we cannot effectively work towards our goals of increased liberty and greater freedom unless we work as one body. So while we're unique and different, and we can be as, we have different perspectives on the goals of the liberty and the freedom that we want to bring to Washington State. Some of us are going to walk, some of us are going to shout, some of us are going to hear things, some of us are going to see things before others. But if we continue to work alone and divide our efforts, we will be as useless as a body made of only an eye which can't walk or hear. So why is this important to us, and why would I spend my time talking to you about this? Because number one, I care about this effort that we're doing. I care about you guys. I'm a part of this body. So I'm saying this to you is an encouragement to say that this strategy of divide and conquer has been effective in defeating opponents for centuries. The current political climate in America encourages each of us to find the differences we have with one another and to focus on those differences, making the difference more important than the most important part of our interactions with one another. That kind of division breeds hatred, it breeds mistrust, and derogatory comments on Facebook only add fuel to the fire when we get into those little arguments about our differences. It should be evident that while division weakens our efforts, a unified front strengthens our organization. That is the primary importance of unity. It creates strength. In order for the LPWA to be an effective agent of change in politics and government affairs, we need to be strong. Not at any cost. Certainly not at the cost of our principles. But don't be mistaken, unity has a cost. The conundrum for the LPWA is that the cost of unity is closely related to a foundational ideal of the libertarian philosophy, which is the primacy of the individual. In order to be unified for a common cause, it is necessary for individuals to put aside some of the concerns about which they are most passionate and focus on those things that we agree on. It's easier said than done. Intellectual humility, selflessness, and self-discipline are necessary to maintain the strength that unity brings. The key to this effort is to keep our eyes on the ball, to recognize the primary cause for which the LPWA needs to be unified. That is, in my opinion, to limit government and maximize freedom in the lives of our fellow Washingtonians. Every individual who is committed to that goal, via the LPWA anyway, should be just as committed to paying the price for the unity that makes that goal possible. If we do those things, we focus on the goals, we work together, and make the effort that it takes to work together to reach that goal, if we practice humility, selflessness, and self-discipline, considering the goal of advancing liberty as more important than yourself, we let our ears hear, allow our eyes to see, encourage our feet to walk, invite our minds to think, and inspire all of our unique members to work as one body, we will be more unified, we will be stronger, we will affect change, and we will have more freedom and prosperity in Washington State. Otherwise, I fear our efforts will be in vain. So my call to you is not to join me in this, it's to join us. And let's make liberty a reality in Washington State together.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.